it's definitely not the prettiest. Why do I like white pine? The needles are not as sharp. Okay. Do I want a bigger tree or the shorter tree? As a bigger tree, the first branch might be here. You can still do a few things to it. And this method was actually taught to us by one of the visiting Japanese master. This will be the first step to anything and every pine that you work on. Like that's only 10 seconds, it's done.
10 seconds maybe for you, Tien, but...
Yeah, but you know, what a point.
Hello, Tien. Hello, everyone. We are today looking at white pines because we've been doing a few episodes on black pine and we got a few requests to talk about white pine as well. So here it is. So over to you, Tien.
Yep, so it's actually quite interesting to hear and to see the feedback and response from you guys. So definitely white pine, I enjoy working on them quite a lot more than blacks. Yeah, so I definitely, this is something where I enjoy doing. And I thought today we'd choose a raw material. Nothing has been done to it. Instead just the general horticultural feeding and fertilizing. The tree is grafted onto a long needle white pine. So it's white pine onto white pine. The reason we do that is I have grown them from seed before. I'm still doing that now. They often can have very weak root system on them. So grafting for a commercial production is the way to go. Okay, they graft onto a strong root base and they can grow quite well. And this will be something that you guys can find quite commonly from all the garden centers or conifer garden centers that you can get your access to. But I thought today we'll just do something with a tree like this to sort of demonstrate to you guys what do we look for in a tree like this. Once you have it, where is the tree? Where is the tree within this tree that you can see? And also how do we then deal with the needles to set it onto a path of being a bonsai, pretty much. Okay, so I thought, other than telling you what I would do, maybe I'll get Matt to give us a bit of an assessment from your perspective. You're looking at a tree like this. What can you see, and where do you see the tree, I suppose, that you're looking at it?
Yeah, I gave that a good 30 seconds thought when you asked me, but while I was setting up. But I had a quick look at the tree, and I thought back to before we started shooting the videos and tried to remember what I used to look at in terms of buying nursery stock. And I remember I bought a black pine off you that it was thriving, it was really healthy. So I think for me it was health and making sure that the tree was healthy from the start. And that way it gave me a good opportunity to keep it alive, which everyone knows I'm not that good at. But also with that particular tree you've got there, now I've been doing these videos, definitely the straightness in the trunk and the graft on the bottom I don't really like, and the branching I haven't really looked at it, but I think that could be probably worked with.
Okay.
Yep, but there's not many sort of lower branches and they're all coming from the same spot is what I can see. I don't know, is that a characteristic of white pine that they sort of come from the same spot like that?
Characteristics of all the pines, actually.
Yeah, okay.
They tend to grow from one spot, new shoots come up from the center, another row of branches, another row of branches from that.
Yeah, so that's sort of my quick assessment of it.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, if I saw that, I don't think I would buy it.
Okay.
But maybe it's your love of curves and twists and turns is rubbing off on me, and I prefer that sort of look these days. And
cool. Well, when you look at a tree like this, I have made statements like, trees, they don't know they need to be anything. They're just a tree. Mother Nature wanted to be a big tree. So without any of our training and our thoughts putting into the direction of the tree, just grow bigger over time. With being a biggest, tallest tree that you can get as the aspiration what the tree needs to be. So therefore, there's not a lot of taper in the trunk because really taper to the tree doesn't matter. Taper is not, oh, I need to get taper. No, the tree doesn't think like that. The tree doesn't think, it responds. Okay, so there's not a lot of taper in that, and there's quite a bit of straightness in that. And also, you can see branches from here, 1, 2, 3. 3 lots of branches. And if we want to stick to the bonsai principle of one trunk, one branch, we're left with one trunk with 1, 2, 3, 3 branches. That's 3 branches. That's all we'll have. We'll cut away. We'll keep one branch here, one branch here, one branch there, and that's it. All right. So that would be quite a severe cut, and perhaps not the best use of the tree. And also, I also look at this as, do I want a bigger tree or a shorter tree? As a bigger tree, the first branch might be here, not down here. The first branch might be one of those, and then the tree is like a lot taller. The branch brought down, so that's not, the lack of branching down here, not an issue. And also, do I look for a tree with more twist and turn into it, or more of a soft, slender tree? Okay, all these are the things I'm thinking. But I'm looking at this. These guys here, 3 branches, 1, 2, 3 branches from here. Whereas up here, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can see 7 branches from this one spot. Okay, I can already see a bit of reverse swelling happening here. And then there's no branch until the next set. So to me, a tree like this, I focus on what's down there that we can use. Now you talk about this graft. It's definitely not the prettiest, but it's better than the understock, thinner than the scion that's grafted onto it. Sometimes that can happen. But also sometimes what can happen is the graft is quite high, not down low. This is actually pretty good. Not the best, but it's only, I would say, 2 or 3 centimeters above the ground. So that's pretty low, or low enough. Sometimes what will happen is the graft's union can really be bulging than the base. So that's the thickest part. But in this case, it's thick, and the scion is quite thin. So this is, to me, still acceptable. Okay, don't want something that's thinner, thicker here. No. So I want something that's very thick than the base.
So that'll right itself in time.
Yeah.
It'll become more sort of gradual.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this tree, usually understock is 1 or 2 years old. The graft itself takes another year. So by the time the graft has taken, it's 3 years old, and you'll be potted into a pot another year. So by the time I got the tree about 4 years old, and this tree has been here for another year. So this tree is really only 5 years at the most. Okay, so if you give the tree another 50 years, that won't be an issue. Okay, another 10 years, that will begin to grow out of it.
Yep.
It's not the best, as I say, but it's better than having the understock thinner than the tree itself, or the reverse bulging there. So really, if I'm looking at a tree like this, you can see this is 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. Okay, so 4 years of growth after it's been grafted. So that is 2 years understock, 4 years in the tree, so 6 years old. And you can see how quickly they can grow though. So I actually am not considering using the rest of the tree. I'm using the bottom bit, this first section down low. I'm using that. That'll give me a change of direction in the trunk. It'll give me thinner branches to work with. Okay, often we look at a tree like this, oh, lots of branches, but we fail to see, okay, are those branches usable? A lot of times they are too thick. What do you mean by too thick? If the branch itself is pushing 50% of the thickness of the trunk where that branch emerge, that's getting too thick for me. And also it can be too long. That the tree looks nice and full, but all the foliage are on the exterior. And you look into it, okay, actually not much branches in there. So that's not a great material. Okay, so right now, the trunk. I've got 1, 2, 3, and the distance. This is a bit leggy, but that's still quite thin, so I can still do some bending to it. Okay, then I will end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. And you can see if I use this to be the tree, I can get actually more branches from this lower section than what we have here, because there are 7 branches, but we only to keep 1 or 2, and to keep 1 or 2 up here. All right, so if we use the lower parts, that'll give us better taper, and will get us even thinner branches to play with, and that will give us more branches to play with. All right, so often in this case, I'll get rid of this and keep the bottom half, but I'm not getting rid of it. We want to use this. I'll use this as a sacrifice branch. Continue to use as a sacrifice branch. So the lowest branch now becomes the trunk, and the rest of the existing branches, the existing trunk, now becomes a sacrifice branch that continues to thicken while we work on the bottom tree. So that would be my plan, to work on something like this for this tree. Now, if you wish to grow a bigger tree, then you can possibly look at different style, informal upright. It's still bendable, but it's actually quite hard already, but it's still bendable. All right, you can still do a few things to it. But I'll just say the lack of branches, because that internal has stretched out, so is that. So there's a big gap of that much between each set of branches. So I do not consider them usable if I want a smaller tree. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking with this. All right, so
Do you think it's better to start off trying to grow a smaller tree, and then over the years it develops into a larger tree
I think, yeah,
rather than just going for a big tree straight away?
yeah, I think as a general principle, I always go for a small tree first. I said to some of the guys here who are volunteers that sometimes we try to do both. We work on a bigger tree and there's a smaller tree down there. We work on them both. But over the years, what we always found is we always come back after, let's say, 4, 5, 10 years of training that tree at top and the bottom. Always in the end, we just come back to a smaller tree. Okay, so that to me, the idea would be then, if you start with a smaller tree, you can always grow that to be a bigger tree, but not so much the other way around. And I was leading to a point that this branch might look a bit thin, a bit not much, but within 1 or 2 years, if we get rid of all this, within 1 or 2 years, this bit here can grow to the density of branches of this in about 2 to 3 years. Okay, so it's not as if, well, we're sacrificing so much, but we are getting better taper, better movement into it that we can never achieve with using the entire length of this. Okay, so bonsai really isn't, sometimes we want to use as much of it, but often at the end, we should have cut off certain things and replaced with something else smaller that grow into better shape, better, shorter internodes, thinner branches. A lot of people don't know that branches don't grow thinner. Like when they are thick, they won't ever grow thinner. So we want to use smaller, thinner branches to begin with, if we need to choose one or the other. Okay, so when they are more than half, so usually a third of the thickness of the trunk is where I will consider optimum. Getting 50% is getting thick. More than 50% is really too thick. Okay, so in this case, we'll aim for the longer term project with this, but it really doesn't really take that long. Now, I want to show you a tree that we have done similar amount of work to it. Okay, we train this tree as a younger tree compared to this one. Okay, so the trunk, they were nowhere near as thick as this. But you can see that once we put a bit of twist into it, so let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 change of direction in the same span of this. So that we could never achieve with the thickness that we have. But if I turn this to one side, or one or the other, that's one, but I can do the rest with this. Okay, but that's the kind of movement that can never be accomplished with this much of a thickness in a tree. So to me, longer term, that's what we go for. Okay, time for some pruning. So as I said earlier, we're turning this into a sacrifice branch. So I'm cutting all these branches, this swirl of branches, like 7, 8 branches all in one spot. You will see once I remove them. Oh wait, we cut 2 off already. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 branches. Can you see the reverse swelling there already? That will never go away. So even if we choose to leave one branch, it's still quite lumpy. Okay, so much better off we choose a thinner one to get a taper. Thick, thinner, thinner, and then to finer branches. And then with all this, with white pines, we do not pluck them. We always prune them back because their bark is actually quite thin. And by pulling them out, you can rip the bark off. So often with them, we will just cut them back. But obviously in this case, I'm not really keeping any of the upper growth. So we can just rip them out. And I'll be only keeping one branch to go to one side to continue to grow. We do not need anything else up here to grow, to overshadow or hinder the growth down here. So just one big branch to grow away, and that will be all we need. That'll be all we need for that to continue to run while we start to train this. So almost in a way, we need to weaken this enough for this to gain strength. Okay, but I don't want to just cut it off because this can continue to thicken the base for us. Okay, so you can see the trunk emerging quite straight. So the idea then will be, okay, can we tilt it to whichever direction? Okay, the tree has a bit of exposed roots there. That's actually, could be great, could be bad. I actually don't mind them exposed like that. But what this is Pinus parviflora glauca. Okay, so it's one of the most common variety of white pine you can find, at least here in Australia. Okay, so that's all I've done. The first step is to get rid of all those thicker branches. Now with white pines, what we then do is, you can see that's 1 year growth. This is this year's growth. So there are lots of the last year's needles on the tree. So what we do now is we thin out. This is this year, last year, some of these ones are the year before. So we can trim them up at the base, just like we do with black pine, leaving the sheath intact on them. So instead of putting them out, we just do this, because we still would like the potential to have new branches popping out as a needle buds from all these needles. Okay, so I'm thinning them back. So I'm thinning them right out so that I can put my wire around this length. I want to put a lot of drastic bends into this. Okay, so we just need to clear up the needle out of the way, cut them shorter, so we can put our wire on pretty easily while they can still bud up. And this method was actually taught to us by one of the visiting Japanese master, Hirotoshi Saito. Hirotoshi-san taught this to us many years ago, as to this is how they deal with white pines in Japan. So we've been doing this since. So now I won't trim them all off or leave some of the older needles there. So usually what I do is I'll leave with my thinning out. This is what we call thinning out. We're thinning out the older needles. I'll leave probably 1 or 2 rows of needles around the site. So some of these younger ones, you can do the same. Cut away some of the bottom rows, leaving just 1 or 2 around. Okay, now we have 1, 2, 3. I don't know which one will keep yet because I don't know where they will be once I start wiring. So we'll leave everything there for now. Okay, now you can see there are 2 bottom branches here. Actually 1, 1, and 2. These 2 are at the same junction. So 1 and 2 little ones. They are so small they are not going to cause an issue just yet. So we'll keep both of them. But this one with a bit of length, yeah, you can see there are lots of older needles from last year and the new ones. So we will again trim those needles off. Just to thin out enough for us to put a wire on and shape them. This will be the first step to anything and every pie that you work on. And often I would say this approach doesn't just apply to white pie or black pie. I often say this is like any time. You can apply this to any pie, any time if you like. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be right now. Let's say you have newly acquired a pie in the middle of summer. You can still do this. You could acquire a pie in autumn, in winter, you can still do all this. Because we're doing the bare minimum, thinning out the older needles. And then you can see into the tree a bit more and do some necessary wiring if you need to. Okay, so that's that one done. And I'll just thin this last one there. But often when you're working on new trees, new nursery stock, the tree hasn't been trained, hasn't been shown what to do and what to grow. So you have a lot of abundance of branches to choose from, but it's actually a curse if they all grow from one spot, and pines do that all the time. So we sort of need to look at, oh, a lot of branches, but actually they are all growing out from the wrong spot at the same time. So we need to see what else can we do. So that was definitely not a good idea to get yourself into and try to work with that. It's because it's not going away. Okay. Well, as you can see, the tree is very much thinned out by now. I can see every shoot has been thinned out to a few pairs of needles near the new growth. Okay. All right, so that's just really thinned out now. So all we need to do then is decide what to do with it now. I would like movement in the tree. So to initiate that initial movement, the tree, the trunk, cannot emerge vertically straight out from the base. That just breaks everything. Just visually, it will look a bit odd that a tree go up straight for no reason at all, begin to go sideways. The sideways growth must come from certain environmental element. Could be wind, could be something, could be been hit by a truck, could be something. All right, so if we like movement in it, often if we tilt the tree to one side or another, that will give us a much better flow into what we try to wire at the end with the tree. My mind was set on wiring it just more like an informal, not informal, but still upright, twisted. Okay, that's my initial thought. Now we have that branch there. By the time we tilt it to one side, that branch is on the outside of the bend, which fits in quite well. All right, and then that little one there, that little branch at the back can be used as a back branch. All right, so we got the main trunk, 1 into 1, 2, 3. Okay, so with pine trees, I often don't mind the extra one in there. Usually it goes from 1 bifurcate into 2, but now it goes from 1 bifurcate into 1, 2, 3. The extra one with the pine trees or trees that grow only from the internodes in this case, I don't mind that extra little one there. The word to stress on is the little one. I don't want them to be all huge branches. No, when they're all huge and large, they will cause us reverse swelling, so we don't want that. But when they're small like this, I don't mind them for now. Okay, so this branch comes up this main one, so that can stay as a branch there. Okay, so I'm sort of looking at maybe just tilting to one side and wire the rest of this to begin with. Okay. Let me grab another pot so we can sit it in the right angle.
And with the wiring, is it better to do it sooner rather than later, or?
Yes. Really, if you ask me, some people, oh, is it the right time to wire? As long as our wiring doesn't cause damage to the tree, then I would say it's pretty not the wrong time to wire a tree. The pines particularly. I don't really find that it's better to wire or not the good idea to wire a tree in certain seasons. That I have noticed that it's bad for the tree. Now I definitely don't wire a tree when the new candles are still stretching and they are nice and soft. I try to avoid doing that to it. Okay, that they can really be damaged and come off. But you can see that's not the issue with these guys right now. This right now is in November in Southern Hemisphere, so well into early summer. So they have hardened off enough. So that's not an issue for me. So I would like to wire them as early as I can, provided they have enough length and thickness that we can play with. When they're too small like that, obviously there's nothing to wire. That's still a bit too small for me. That one there is actually quite ideal, that one there. Okay, it's probably a bit more than match stick thickness. So we can do quite a lot to it, and you can see shorter internodes. Branch here, branch there. This one has stretched out a little bit more, but that length, we can counteract that and get rid of it by twisting a few more turns into to get rid of that. So that's not an issue. But yeah, as early as you can, but needs to have enough adequate, I suppose, length and thickness.
Because I've noticed on some of mine that I did a bit of an experiment actually.
Okay.
That I wired one branch.
Yeah.
That was very similar to another branch that I didn't wire.
Right.
And it was kind of like a lily-pilly type tree.
Yep.
And the branch that I wired didn't grow anything.
Okay.
Whereas the one that I didn't wire flourished.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense because every time we wire, I suppose you're coming from that perspective. Once we wire something, it weakens it.
Yeah.
Because a tree that's growing straight up, like traffic flow is optimal. Whereas you start bending things to it, you are damaging the road, the path that they travel. And when you bring the branch down, it weakens that even more. So the bending and the pointing downwards, dropping it down, it will weaken a certain branch. The logic applies then these guys will begin to take off because they no wire at all pointing upwards. These guys will be set back a little bit. Okay, but would you, not sure. I mean, would you not wire something just to make it go strong? So I suppose you need to have a consideration, I suppose, on that tree. Okay, is the tree healthy enough? Can the tree respond well? And does the tree have enough time rest in the season to respond to the work that we've done to it? Yeah. Having said that, I will not avoid wiring a tree in the winter month though. Okay, so, but just definitely to bear in mind, once we wire something, it does weaken them. Okay, so definitely weak branches, weak trees, we do extra work to it, which I suppose that's why a lot of times people bring trees to me. They want me to work on the tree straight away. They want everything done in one session. They'll come back, yep, drop it up, pick it up, and they are good. But this tree is just too weak to be worked on. We won't do it. We'll just prune it back, repot it, nurse it back to health. Then once the tree has come back in better vigor, better health, then we can work on the tree. Okay, so I suppose in that case, we'll wire as early as we can, provided the tree is healthy, is vigorous. I can see the tree is healthy because of all the new growth it's pushing out. Okay, white pines, I don't find them having long candles as black pine would. This is actually pretty good health, good healthy new candles that are growing on the tree like this. Yeah, so that's all these are good healthy tips. All right, so the tree is healthy enough to be worked on. Okay, I'm sort of in a bit of predicament here. There's a branch going to the right hand side. This branch is also going to the right hand side. I could use this as a new trunk, but I'd like to do a bit more bending with this. So it's not positioned to the left hand side, but it's positioned pointing to the right hand side. So I'm thinking maybe we might do the front there where you're looking at now. So we can just pull this out. So the first branch to the right, second branch to the left, then we can deal with the rest. We'll see how we go once we put a wire on. See how we can manipulate and twist this. We can also twist it to position the branches where we need to be, but it's so close to the first, it's so close out of the first node of that branch. So there's not much twisting that we can do. Had this been up here, we could have twisted it to position, but it's too close, so we can't really do much with it. But put a bit of wire on, then we'll see how we can, yeah, change it a little bit. All right, so some people ask, well, how do you choose the right gauge and right length wire? There are many ways to do it. My way has always been feeling that, okay, I need that much. You feel the resistance, the tension from that. So you need something greater than that. So that to me is a 3.5 mil wire. That has greater resistance. Maybe even just a 3 mil would do. No, 3 mil would do. 3 mil wire would do that. Now I am thinking, or I'll wire it from the sacrifice to that and compare that with that little branch there.
And all the while you're sort of looking at that, you're considering the front as well, in terms of Nabari and even the graft.
Yeah, I am kind of leaning towards either here or this other side. On this side, we're looking at mat. That now becomes a back branch. All right, so that's a primary first branch. This is a second branch, but it's a back branch. So where it comes out really doesn't matter that much anymore. So this is actually a very well positioned back branch.
Yeah.
So the dilemma of having this as a front, on this that's not an issue. So branch here, branch in the back, then we do the rest. So I'm considering using this side to be the front. Yeah, but we'll see how the twist in this goes.
Okay.
All right, we'll find out. We'll wrap it around. You can see how, because we have thinned it out already, it's actually quite easy. There's no obstructions. There's no extra needles, extra branches being caught in the way. Like that's only 10 seconds, it's done. But had we had left a lot of things in there untrimmed, would have been a lot harder to try to go around them.
10 seconds maybe for you, Tien, but
yeah, but but the point is, once you clear them out, it's not hard. It's not that hard anymore. All right, just put a couple of 1.5 mil wire on those two, and that two length of wire. That initial styling is done. I put a 2 mil wire on these two. The one in the back needs a bit more length, a bit more thickness. Okay. All right. Don't even matter if you want to just come out a little bit. I have a choice to go over like this, or to just go under like this. Now I'm bringing the branch down, and also you can see the orientation of these two, but one is pointing upwards, one is pointing downwards a little bit. So I'd like to put it over the top like this. Okay, so while we coil the wire around the branch, we can also rotate. You see, we can also rotate these. So instead of like that, we can rotate it. Okay, so I'm putting it on in such a way like this. And this bottom one really doesn't matter. It's so thin, doesn't matter how we put it on, you will move it. Okay, that's done. Go around it. 2 branches, 1, 2, 3. Again, on a white pine, it's a necessary evil, I suppose. We need to sort of leave one extra until new needle buds emerge. Then we might have another options. But right now we don't have much options. This is raw material, never been trimmed, so we need to leave a bit more than what we would have. All right, so now you can drop this. You can drop this. Bring out a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's the back, the second branch. Now we can do this. Now let me see. I'm definitely not aiming for a bit of a lazy S, not lazy, a soft S shape. Since I'm wiring already and since I'm thin enough, we want to do a lot more. And again, with the direction in which you apply a wire, you can twist the branch. Often I find that a lot of coniferous trees, they are quite sappy and also they stretch first before they break. But if you're wiring a lot of, let's say, flowering trees, azaleas, maples, all of those things, they can be very snappy. Once you go past a certain point, they can just snap on you. But with this, they tend to just tear and then you crack before it snaps. I just cracked it. But even if you cracked it, it's fine. But you can see that's easily 90%, so 90-degree bend before you crack. So once it cracked on one of the spots, that's still okay. But that tells you, yeah, that's about as much you push it. But if this is a maple, you will just snap on you in half. Okay, so you don't do that. But if you, let's say, I just did this to it, one direction. But if you twist, okay, let's say I'm twisting it. The crack hasn't happened yet, but it's being twisted. So you can see the fiber, instead of just go like that, it stretches and twists. So it doesn't bend, doesn't break as easily. Okay, so you can apply that principle to when you're wiring certain branches. You can do that to it.
And can I just say, it's a good idea too, maybe for beginners when they're pruning and they do have branches that they've cut off, just to feel them and bend them and break them and really sort of get an idea of how far you can stretch it. Because you don't want to do it necessarily on the tree. So
on the tree,
once you've cut it off, it's a good opportunity to just see what happens.
So with this, the tree is leaning to my right-hand side now. So you can either have the apex coming back or have the apex going in the same direction. In this case, I'll have it going in the same direction and the apex has to be away from the center of the trunk. The apex has to be off center. So by the end of my twisting and wiring, the center cannot just zigzag left and right and still ends up in the middle. No, I don't want it to be, I want to see drama with a tree like this. Okay. Now, I think you can just focus in. I just rubbed it quite hard against the bark. It has just peeled off slightly. Okay, so I was going to make a comment. There are certain times of the year where the tree is growing lushly and strong, and the pine bark on a white pine is actually quite thin on a young tree like this. So they can come off quite easily if you put so much force on them. Now, especially in the spring and summer month, they do have a lot of sap flow. So you do want to be a bit careful with them. But I find that that's not a big issue at all. Okay, so when I'm holding, I'm actually holding the wire, not the bark. But I was not very careful with that one, so it came off a little bit. Now, let's see. So I'm holding on the wire. So when I'm pushing the wire, I find it's easier for me to control, and you can use your pliers too to help you grab the wire and twist. Yep, that's just a little crack there. You heard that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I pushed a bit too far with that bit there. But a little crack, it doesn't really break, so that will be fine. Now we can keep doing. And often I'll push it until it cracks a little bit. On a young tree like this, that's pretty okay. Okay. All right. I'll just put a bit of putty on that. And this cracked easier because you can see that one is thicker than the one that we're playing with. It's thicker than the other ones. So it did crack a little bit. But that should be fine. All right, so now you can see all right. So that's the initial shaping that we've done to it. You see there's a first branch coming through, a back branch. Now, these two branches, they're only inside of the curve pretty much right now. This will be a branch going there. So I will most likely see how they develop a bit more, but we have got 3 branches. I have to make a decision right now. Okay, I'm keeping these 2. Okay, this one come to the front, this one behind it. This third one can come off. All right, I still don't need that one to grow there, but I need a little front branch here. The longest branch on this tree will come from somewhere up here, not necessarily from here or from here. Longest branch will be from there somewhere. Okay, and that's some sort of those counterbalance branch on the opposite side. All right, so if you can imagine now we've done this in another year or 2, let's play our magic again. You get length from this. Yeah, you get length from this. You get length from these 2. You get branches from here up here too. All right, and most likely because it's so thin, I'm expecting a few more buds to pop out from this length here. Okay, so by then we can play a bit more. And that gives you the idea how we wire something. And we can begin then from one little shoot to build into a branch and begin to ramify. Okay, so that's the idea that we go for. So often we did this bend when the tree was really young. Like I said, we bent this when the tree more or less was still that thickness. This wasn't bent yesterday. This was done for 4 years ago now. But often we don't have access to them when they were that young, and this is all we have. So to create that movement in there, often it's using the lowest 1 or 2 branches, tilted on an angle so we can get an initial movement. So you can still get a lot of drastic movement into it with that first branch and with the thinner branch that we use now as a trunk. All right, so instead of trying to bend the whole length, now the tree is well on its way to be a very interesting with twist taper and twist into it. It looks a bit long now, but all this is yet to develop. So I'm pretty sure some branches will pop out from this length here. Okay, so that's the initial assessment of the white pine, and this is what we would do to it. Okay.
So just going back to white pines as opposed to black pines.
Yeah.
Can you explain the differences? I know you mentioned it's got thin bark and single flush. Maybe explain single flush and the effects that has on its development.
Okay. White pines are found in a higher elevation in the mountains. So whereas black pine and red pine, black pines are found, Japanese black pine found on the coastal area of Japan. Red pine is a bit higher elevation, but not up in the mountains. So over the centuries, you'll find that they have adapted to grow in those conditions. What I mean is, let's say in Japan and in Taiwan, where I initially came from, summertime is typhoon season. You get 2 or 3 typhoons. You're lucky. If you are not lucky, you get 5 or 6 of them. And a typhoon with strong wind and strong rain that comes with it, all the spring growth that come out by summertime would have been stripped off. So the tree that over centuries, well, you just stripped off all my new growth, all my solar panels, well, I got to grow again. Therefore, they have adapted to be able to grow one more time if the new growth is removed. Okay, so that's why we can apply those decanting technique to it to remove the first initial flush, and the tree will push out one more time. Whereas with white pine, I must say I've never decanted them as such. Okay, but what we would do to them is, because they grow in higher elevation, if you cut them off, they really haven't evolved to push out another flush that's reliable that we can count on year after year. But what I would do usually is, let's say we have this couple of new growth. When they come out, give them about 2 months, they will grow and open up into needles. With a black pine, we can cut the new growth completely off, and new buds will emerge from the base of the candles. Where with single flush pine, often what I'll do is I'll trim them back. I'll just shorten them back in to a few pairs of needles. And I have found that from these few pairs of needles, new needle buds will emerge from them. So that's sort of how I control the length. Instead of having a new growth like this, it's down there, and you can get new branches from them. The tree is healthy enough. Okay, so often that's what I do. So instead of cutting them off, you can just shorten them back in. Not right now, once they have opened up. Every other decandling time for black pine, or even a bit later than that. Once the tree has accumulated enough strength, you can cut them back. So imagine this is, okay. Imagine that's a new growth you get from the tree. In about summertime, you decandle, you take it all off. On the black pine, on the single flush pine, I would cut it right there. And from these few pairs of needles, of the new needles, new buds will emerge. You can especially count on this on a Scots pine. Scots pine will almost guarantee to have new buds coming out from those new candles that you just cut back to. On white pine, it's not as predictable, which is why, in order to maintain their length, often what we would do is, in the springtime, this is too late now, but in the springtime, while in the candle form, we will keep we'll cut away the strong one, but let's say all we have is these two. We'll break the tips. It's too late now, but we'll break the tips of the new candles. So make sure they're nice and small. So when they open up, they are small already, but let them grow, then they gain strength, then we can cut back more if we need to. So this is one step in springtime we can do this, but this applies to all the pines, not just white pines. But instead of decandling, we can just shorten them. Okay, so, but yeah, I have not decandled, I have not attempted to. And I often find that they don't really need decandling. The needles are usually shorter, and the internodes are easier to manage than the black pines. So decandling or attempted to decandle is not a necessary thing for me. And when new buds emerge, let's say you can see this branch is getting quite long. When new buds emerge, we'll cut it back. Okay, so otherwise, each year, even if we do it well, you emerge maybe 1 or 2 centimeters. 5 years, use that much. So whenever new buds emerge, we'll cut it back to those things. So that's why, let's say a branch like this, I've got 2 smaller buds in there. That long length most likely won't be kept. You'll be cut back to those ones. And when new buds emerge from here, this will be maintained and we'll cut back to those. Now, if you look at this one here, okay, the primary branch, okay, has a branch nice and close, and there's a bit of length from then on. I could cut it back to that, or that, if I need to. So I've got 3 or 4 cuts that I can make to this. And this one was cut back, so back to those 2 closer buds. So is this one. This one was cut back to 2 closer buds. Okay, so pine trees are more about keep cutting them back and let the new sets grow out.
Why do you like white pine?
Why do I like white pine
over black pine?
Okay, the needles are not as sharp.
Okay.
And naturally have smaller. Obviously, we would choose shorter needle white pine varieties to play with. They have shorter needles on them, and I do find them. They're not as vigorous. Black pine. There's a term called adventitious buds. You put them back, they pop out because they don't know where they're going to come out. With them, they are a bit more orderly, I suppose. They don't really give you a lot of surprises. You get what you see on the tree, and they're just easier to manage in terms of their size. But being a less vigorous tree, you do need to make sure that they stay strong and healthy. And because of their slower tendency, they don't thicken too quick. I suppose that's another point. Black pine, if you let one branch run, it can thicken 2 or 3 times in a year. With white pines, not so much. All right, so they don't really need as much attention to you. They develop slower, but they don't get out of hand as quick as black pine. Okay, so to me, they're just easier to manage amongst tens of thousands of trees. I just find them easier for me to maintain, to keep them going, to keep them in shape. I suppose the disadvantage with them is you can only grow them, other than growing them from seed. But if they're grafted, often you have to deal with that. What do you dislike in the beginning, Matt? But that's what you have to deal with. With black pine, you can grow them from seed, even from cuttings. I don't, but you can grow them from cuttings, so you can have total control of what you like in a tree. You can introduce those to it. With white pine, more or less, you have to choose a best possible tree and deal with the tree from then onwards. Okay, so.
And I think just getting back to the start, as a beginner, it's probably the hardest thing is to see the potential in a tree.
Yeah.
And to identify what you can do with it. I think it's probably been the hardest part for me.
True.
And it's really only something that you can develop over time and have experience with, I think.
If you play with enough trees, you have enough challenges, you will develop a certain sense of what to look for in a tree to begin with. Yeah, often with pine trees, you can look at a tree nice and full, lots of branches, great, let's play with that. But we then fail to identify, okay, those branches came from 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. 4 layers, four origin where the branch come out, you have 40 branches. But by the time you strip it down, you can only have 4 branches. But they are all big gaps between each one. So we often can be fooled to say, oh, there's a lot of branches, let's buy that. But we fail to see within that, there are a lot of issues in there. And often that's a trap. That's a sign that we often fall into with choosing a material for a coniferous tree, pine trees in particular. So I would say go and buy the smaller tree that you can find, or buy a tree with decent sized trunk, but then there are lower branches in there that you can still play with. Okay, which is what I've done with this. Often we will cut them off, but we can still use these as a sacrifice to continue to thicken while we work on the tree. Okay, that has always been our train of thought, is try to use as much, but then not to be limited by what the tree can do. And growing a smaller tree, a younger tree from a branch, often lead to better results. Okay, so yeah.
And also, I think also for people just starting out, purchasing trees at backbud seem to be a little bit easier to manage in that regard. So you've got that fallback of the backbudding, and if you do make a mistake, then it's not the end of the world. Whereas with a species that doesn't backbud, if you do make that mistake, then it has bigger consequences.
True. Probably a good idea to learn about what backbuds easily, what doesn't. Therefore, you know what to look for. As far as those that doesn't backbud easily or doesn't backbud at all, then you look for branches that are lower, shorter, closer to the trunk. And you can always grow them on, but you cannot go the other way because they don't backbud. Those that doesn't backbud easily, you also look for those things. But those that backbud easily, like an elm, a trident maple, or evergreen, certain things, you then really only look for the trunk. Once you've got a good trunk, you can just regrow every branch. So that doesn't matter so much. But for something that doesn't, it's a good point that you brought out, is you look for different things. Okay, branch structure and where they come out, their thickness, their length becomes more important in that regard. Okay, so this one, that's why I chose a thinner branch, shorter branch, thinner branch. We can build from that, other than try to fix something that can't go backwards. Okay, so it's a lot easier to build from this other than try to fix something that's already long and leggy or thick. Okay, so from this, it's an easier battle. From here, it's just building and building, other than try to fix something that cannot be fixed. Okay, so that's pine Hawaii. This is a raw material, $65 Australian dollar. But this tree, I would say in 2-3 years time, once we work on it well, it can increase in value, not in monetary value, but in visual value very quickly, as opposed to try to work with what we had and try to fix those things. You are forever looking at those issues. Okay.
Very good. So I hope that's good for everyone that was asking about white pines. And thank you very much, Tien, for sharing your knowledge again.
Cool. Thank you.